Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my people all over the world. Welcome back to my channel. It is still your one and only 24/7 news boss. We are here to bring you another fresh update concerning the IPOB. And in this update, we are going to talk about one of the defense lawyers of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu who blasts the Supreme Court over Kanu's detention. But before we proceed, please subscribe, like and share this video, and do not forget to turn on the notification bell so that you will be the first to receive our updates always. So going straight to the news, Barrister Onyedikachi Ifede, one of the defense lawyers representing the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, has described the December 15, 2023 judgment of the Supreme Court of the Zoo Nation as a legal nullity and a judicial immunity against the Constitution of the Zoo government and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. In a strongly worded statement issued on Friday, Ifede criticized the decision of the Appeals Court to release Kanu's trial back to the Federal Capital Territory on charges he described as repelled, tainted, and legal incompetent. According to him, the ruling not only violated established principles of law, but also stripped Kanu of protections guaranteed under both the Zoo Nation's constitutional provisions and international human rights law. It would be recalled that on December 15, 2023, a five-man panel of the Supreme Court delivered judgment in the case of the Zoo Nation versus Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. The judgment overturned the decision of the Court of Appeal, which in October 2022 discharged Kanu of all charges on the grounds that his extraordinary rendition from Kenya to the Zoo Nation in 2021 was unlawful. While the appellate court held that the Zoo Nation had acted outside the law in abducting Kanu from a foreign country without due process, the Supreme Court, in a surprising twist, disagreed. The Appeals Court set aside the ruling of the Court of Appeal, insisting that Kanu should return to face trial at the Federal High Court despite the unresolved allegations of abduction, torture, and rights violations associated with the arrest and transfer. For Ifede, this amounted to a miscarriage of justice of historic proportions. This was not merely a judicial error, it was a judicial immunity against the Constitution, the African Charter, and binding precedent, he declared. Ifede argued that the judgment went against a past important case between General Sani Abacha versus Gani Fawihemi in 2000. In that case, the Supreme Court, with 7 judges, decided that the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which the Zoo government made into law, could be used in the Zoo government courts. They also ruled that this charter has the same power as the part of the Zoo government constitution that protects people's basic human rights. Ifede explained that a smaller group of judges must follow the decision made by a larger group of judges. He referred to the case of Oladokun versus military governor of Oyo State in 1996, which made it clear that in the Supreme Court, the authority of a judgment depends on how many judges gave it. He stressed that only a panel with the same number of more judges can change a decision made by a large panel. He said that by ignoring the earlier case of Abacha and Fawehimi, the 5 judges of the Supreme Court in the case of the Zoo Nation and Kanu took away the strength of the African Charter, which is meant to protect people's rights. This weakens the rule of law in the Zoo Nation. The lawyer added that the judgment was a mistake made without considering existing binding laws, so it has no legal value. He warned that rejecting the charter is like attacking the Constitution itself, and any court that does this risks becoming a tool of oppression. Ifede warned of the dangerous precedent set by the Appeals Court's ruling, saying it opened the door for state authorities to continue violating the rights of citizens without consequence. If this perverse precedent is allowed to stand, no zoo nation citizen will have meaningful human rights protection in cases involving state violence. The rule of law will be replaced by the rule of judicial convenience. The Supreme Court's integrity will sink beneath the weight of its own lawlessness, he cautioned. He further declared that history would not forget the case, describing it as a monument to judicial betrayal the day the Supreme Court of the Zoo Nation broke its own oath and buried the African Charter alongside the Constitution. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has remained in the custody of the Department of the State Services (DSS) since June 2021 when he was seized in Kenya under controversial circumstances. His legal team has consistently described his transfer back to the Zoo Nation as an act of extraordinary rendition, a violation of both international law and the Zoo Nation's treaty obligations. Despite repeated calls from human rights organizations, international observers, and some political voices urging his release, the Zoo Nation government has maintained its position that Kanu must stand trial on charges bordering on treasonable felony and terrorism-related offences. In October 2022, the Court of Appeal discharged Kanu, ruling that his extraordinary rendition invalidated the entire trial process. However, the Zoo government immediately appealed, leading to the December 2023 Supreme Court judgment that has now sparked fresh debate on the rule of law and the judicial independence in the Zoo Nation. Civil society organizations and international rights bodies have repeatedly condemned the Zoo Nation's handling of Kanu's case. Groups such as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and local rights advocates argue that the Zoo government has consistently ignored due process and international legal norms. In addition, concerns over Kanu's deteriorating health condition in DSS custody have added urgency to calls for his release. His family and lawyers allege that he has been denied adequate medical treatment, further compounding the human rights concerns surrounding his continued detention. For Ifede and other members of Kanu's legal team, the Supreme Court judgment represents a watershed moment for the Zoo government's legal system. This case is bigger than Nnamdi Kanu, Ifede said. It is about whether the Zoo Nation will remain a country governed by law or by arbitrary power. If the African Charter and constitutional guarantees can be discarded so casually, then every Zoo Nation citizen is at risk. As Kanu's legal battle continues, the spotlight remains firmly on the Zoo Nation's judiciary and its ability to uphold the rule of law in the face of political pressure. For many observers, the handling of this case may ultimately define the credibility of the Zoo Nation's justice system for years to come. So my people, now here we go end down for now. We'll be back shortly again, but before then, please subscribe, like and share this video.